Hello, my name is Peggy McGill, and I'd like to talk to you about my digital project entitled When Face-to-Face Communication is More Essential Than Digital Communication. Due to the rapid growth of the smartphone and the wireless networks, personal computers have rapidly shifted from devices used for production to devices used for consumption. The smartphone has swiftly permeated society, and with it its mass utilization of digital media, therefore completely changing traditional methods of communication. Today's adolescents are the first generation born with the internet and growing up in the globally interactive era. These teenagers have been labeled Generation M or Generation Net, meaning that they are often multimedia tasked and technologically addicted. Multitasking has not just become an activity, it has become a way of life. One of the reasons I went back to graduate school is I wanted to study why these teenagers were turning away from face-to-face communication to digital communication. So I began researching that in my annotated bibliography, and I used the theory of uses and gratifications. Uses and gratifications is a wonderful, rich kaleidoscope theory of understanding, but it has a very simple premise that each of us uses a type of medium for a certain need. We deliberately use it for a particular purpose. So I studied, and I plan to finish with my thesis of why the adolescents are turning towards digital communication and away from face-to-face. But as I began thinking about my digital project, what I believe that there are certain times and certain examples of when we need to have face-to-face communication versus digital communication. So I posit three examples, and there are many, many more, but these are some that I came up with that I feel that are very important. And I have two professional examples and one personal example. My first professional example is a job interview. And if you go to a job interview, the purpose of the interview is for both parties to decide on mutual employment. Not only is the company interviewing you, but you're interviewing them. So what is the use and the gratification obtained here by this face-to-face interview? Well, body language, tone of voice, eye contact. These things are very important. And particularly when you're asking, why is this position open? Why did this person leave this position? Tell me how you feel about this position. Tell me more about this position. And most of all, how do you feel when you're at this workplace? Is it a positive? Is it a negative feeling? All of these are important pieces of information that cannot be obtained through any type of digital media. So therefore, it is highly advised to do face-to-face communication. The second example is coworker conflict. Nowadays, so many of us use telecommunicating, and we don't see our coworkers. We communicate completely through email, through phone, through text. However, often these emails and texts can be easily misconstrued. And in a world where people have to work together as teams, how can you truly resolve a difficult issue without face-to-face? So I would recommend that the gratification in a face-to-face, not confrontation, but a face-to-face meeting would be to resolve an issue. No one particularly enjoys personal conflict, but there's a tremendous amount of strength in facing that conflict that builds confidence for future endeavors. And facing these difficulty and challenges with different individuals is what's going to build experience for you within the workforce. Again, using eye contact, speaking directly, speaking honestly, telling the other person how you feel, and learning how to compromise. These are all issues that are going to arise in the workplace, and they cannot easily or properly be solved by digital media. The last example that I give is a personal one, and that would be if you're telling serious news within a core family, particularly the death of a loved one or the illness of a loved one. When my mother died 2 years ago, I was driving to work in a rainstorm, and my sister called me. She was in Florida and I was in North Carolina, so this was the closest we could get to face-to-face communication. Obviously, I was upset and shocked, and I could have easily had an accident, but I needed to get home. So what happened was my sister said she would stay with me on the phone as long as I needed, and she began to tell me loving and funny stories about my mother, and she made me laugh, and she made me cry, and that was a precious gift to me. And that, there's no way that could have been achieved through texting. Not that she knows how to text anyway, but it was a very precious gift. And the gratification that I received was love and support that I couldn't have gotten through digital media. And I strongly believe that any news of a serious illness or a death within a core family should be done with face-to-face communication. So in conclusion, I would like to say that dialogue is the core of our society, and communication and it's how we establish relationships. Stop for a moment and think for just a minute about hearing the wedding vows of two loved ones, or the first time you heard your child cry, or your parent comforting you as a child. Dialogue and its effects are crucial to every aspect of life and how we communicate with each other. This is how we form relationships that nurture us both emotionally and intellectually. And as much as digital media brings to us, it can't always do that. These types of dialogue and the emotion have been going on since the beginning of time, but the medium of this communication for the delivery has constantly changed. And now with the advent of the smartphone, another enormous change is upon us. As Francis Bacon said, when the thinking world had been remade with the advent of the printing press, I believe the next generation is stating that our world of communicating has been remade. And I look forward to seeing where we go with it. Thank you very much for your time.